Stay away from credit cards. They're dangerous. Credit cards have an insane interest rate. So why would I recommend them? I knew someone who once racked up $15,000 in credit card and never recovered from it. Credit cards can leave you bankrupt. If you can't buy it in cash, you shouldn't buy it at all. Have you heard of any one of these before? Usually people say this when they don't understand how credit works. But what if you could flip the script? What if you could use credit cards to travel the world, retire early, and never have to work again? And stay in free hotels? Well, let's find out how to do that, shall we? We've done some of these before. We've done actually pretty much all of these before, and so we can tell you and guide you through the process. Our personal illness, my team has done this as well, and it's a brilliant strategy. So we're going to talk about how to use credit cards to retire early and travel the world. So let's understand credit from the top. Credit is a financial system that guides the relationship between the owners of assets and those who they are lending to. Cash is the most common asset that is lent out. Usually it's given by banks. But of course, if you are a private lender, you can become a lender as well. Banks determine which candidates to loan money to. This is just the basics of credit. We have to cover it just that we make sure that we are all on the same page. In the US, credit scores range between 300 to 850, 850 being exceptional credit, above 700 being good credit. Credit scores are calculated using a few factors, and I'm going to run through them here. I'm also going to put them on the screen. We have a nice diagram here. 35% of your credit score is your payment history, which is whether or not you've never missed a payment. Missing just one payment is detrimental to your score, so it's always better to at least pay the minimum than miss a payment completely. Of course, what you're aiming for is to pay your entire bill every month. 30% of your credit score is your credit utilization, which is how much of your total available credit you're using. You want to use less than 30% of whatever your limit is, but ideally the sweet spot is between 1 to 4%. Why? Because banks want to see that you have money, but you're not desperate to use it. I know, but that's the way that you need to think about it. I know it's weird, but again, we're getting into a different way of thinking about money. Just accept it, that's fine. Move on. 15% of your score is the length of your credit history. Usually, the average length of all of your accounts. Usually, you want to be above 7 years, above 15 years even better, but most people, when they're just starting out, are around 5 years. Once you get to 5 years, you start to get into really average, good, approaching excellent credit. But below 5 years, well, you have some work to do. That's why it's better to have that's why it's better to have cards open for a long period of time. The remaining 20% of your score is made up equally of the new credit that you have and the number of times that you are applying for new credit. So, the number of accounts that you have and the number of times that you are applying for new credit. So what you don't want to do is apply for multiple cards in a short period of time. What you want to do is have multiple accounts over maybe 5, 4, 3 years and just open a new credit card every 6 months or whatever new account every 6 months. That's about the average every 6 months. That's a good way to look at it. So, credit cards are a flexible loan from your bank. It gives you immediate access to cash up to a limit based on your credit score that you have to pay back by the due date of each month. So let's define some of these terms. The due date is your credit card statement, is when your credit card statement is due for the previous cycle of spending. The cycle is usually 30 days, where the beginning of the cycle ends 21 days before the due date. Listen closely and you can replay this back so that you can understand this. The due date is the day your credit card statement is due for the previous cycle of spending. This cycle is usually 30 days, where the beginning of the cycle ends 21 days before the due date. The end date of the cycle is called the statement closing date. These dates are important. Let's talk about them. Let's say the statement closing date is the 5th. Then your payment would not be due until the 26th of that month or 27th. Of course, you'd be paying for everything that you spent from the 5th and the previous 30 days, which means that the bill for your statement is essentially the previous month's spending. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, if you pay the entire statement on the 26th of that month, then no interest is charged. This is important because let's talk about the cheat. If you have additional transactions after the 5th, these transactions would not show up on your account until the next closing date. So then, anything that you spent this month after the closing statement is next month's problem. Fantastic. Rewind. Again, if you're not getting it, rewind, watch it multiple times until you understand it. And of course, you can also use Google to help you understand some of these terms. I'm trying my best to explain to you here too. Technically, if you wanted a 50-day loan from your bank for absolutely free, here's how you do it. We're talking about credit, talking about a cheat sheet, and we're going to get into credit cards, hotels, flights later on. Sorry, we're going to get into hotels and flights later on, but right now, talking about credit. If you wanted a 50-day loan from your bank, interest-free, you could make a purchase 5 days before your closing date. So then, for example, you could make a purchase on the 1st, and your statement closes on the 5th. For a small amount of money, let's say you have a $5,000 limit credit card, you purchase gas for $50, no problem. That small amount would register as the statement balance that you have to pay by the 27th of that month. And every purchase that you make after the 5th would not be due until the next month. So then, any transaction that you made in the first month would not be due until not only the 5th, not only that 21 days, but you have the entire next month to pay that transaction, those transactions that you made after the 5th of the first month. Which means once you pay that at the end of the second month, you'd have avoided interest and you'd have had 50 days to pay off whatever you put on the card. You can put that towards an asset and you'd have 50 days of interest-free money from the bank. What do you purchase? Assets like vending machines, ATMs, laundromats, etc. Fantastic? Good. You know, there's even a case I was reading, someone who purchased a New York City skyscraper on a credit card, an Amex Platinum card, an entire building. Think about that. This is how powerful credit cards is, but this is what we're talking about because you are going to unlock a different level of financial freedom for yourself. The second way to avoid interest is getting yourself a card with an opening bonus for 0% interest. Now, many people think this is not possible, but I'm here to tell you that it absolutely is. So here's how we get into it. Different cards offer opening bonuses for various reasons. Some have as little as 6 months, some have as much as 21 months, 24 months even. That's almost 2 years with 0% interest. This is a loan, of course, so you have to pay it back, but let me tell you why this is so exciting. Let's say you have a credit card with $10,000 credit limit. If you have 10 months to pay off $10,000 with 0 interest, which is no penalty to pay that off, you can take that $10,000, buy an asset, and if the asset generates cash flow in excess of $10,000 or in excess of what you spend for it in that first year, then you have essentially used the bank's money to get the asset, not your own, and then after the first year, after you pay back the bank, in the year 2, you still have the asset and it's still generating cash flow. Year 3, still have the asset. Year 4, year 5, year 10, you still have the asset and you didn't use your own money to pay it back. Isn't that brilliant? This is the power of credit cards. This is why we're getting into it today. And now, if you want to combine that, here's where it gets even more fun. That's one credit card that gave you 0% interest for 12 months. So then let's say for the year 2, you get another credit card, 0% interest for the next 12 months, and another credit card. You can essentially have 0% interest cards for 5, 6, 7, 10 years if you wanted to, if you play your cards correctly. And you would never pay interest on a credit card all the while using the bank's money to get these assets. Again, people, this is how you get rich using the bank's money. It's a lot harder to go and get this type of funding from a bank using a traditional loan. But credit cards, almost everybody can get a credit card once you have the requirements met in your credit score. This is the brilliance of it. Once we understand this, it takes over the game. So, let's talk about this. If you have 3 or 4 cards, you can do this. I hope you're truly getting this. So, this can catapult your income. Using the bank's money, you can catapult your income because you'll have assets that you did not pay for by yourself. Fantastic. Now, here's the thing. I understand that not everybody wants to start a business. I get that. But at minimum, you need to realize that you can use your credit cards to buy assets. Though, if you have to, here's a cheat sheet that you can use to increase your credit limit faster before you are actually ready to buy assets. That's the goal, to buy assets using credit. But let's say you want to increase your credit limit so that you can buy bigger assets. You can put things like your utilities, your rent, your various expenses that you would have paid for anyway, not additional expenses. Don't put vacations, don't put Birkin bags on it. No. Put things that you would have spent anyway on your credit cards, because that will show that you are spending and paying it off. There's no reason to use a debit card. So use your credit card so that you can get higher limits. That's a beautiful thing about it. And then once you are ready to get your assets, you have the credit card with high limits ready to go. So we know that there are cards out there with 0% APR interest for 12 months. So then let's talk about how do we find these cards. So I'm going to mention one here, but there are a few others that you can go and check for yourself. It's as simple as Googling 0% interest APR opening bonus. That's it, a bunch will pop up. So for example, at the time of this recording, your Chase Sapphire Preferred offers 60,000 points after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months after account opening. That's at least $600 of free money that you would have spent anyway. Or taken another way, it's an additional $600 that you have as an incentive to go and purchase an asset. Now, you're probably thinking, how am I going to spend $4,000? Again, people, this is why we have to redefine money. This is why I'm trying to help you, right? Your $4,000 is an asset. How much does an ATM cost? How much does a vending machine cost? A vending machine, ATM, $2,000, $3,000, right? You go ahead and spend that. But then remember, you purchase that in month 1. Then you have the rest of the 11th month to pay off from the cash flow that you are getting from the asset. You buy an ATM for $4,000, buy 2 ATMs for $4,000, $5,000, whatever, buy 2 vending machines, whatever. Then you would have made the opening bonuses, gotten the $600 for free, and you'd have still have an asset that would have paid off the loan. And then in year 2, you still have the asset and you would have earned $600 for absolutely no reason. This is a cheat code, people. I'm telling you, this works. I've done this. More people have done this. This is how you use money to get more money. This is how you're using the bank's money to make yourself rich. Fantastic. Let's keep going. Rewind. You don't get it. Rewind, replay, because I need you to rethink how you're thinking about money. The banks are hoping that you are like most people when they offer these opening bonuses. They hear the truth. They don't want you to think like this because they don't want you to be rich. What they want you to do is to pay them interest, because this is how banks make money. They make money from providing loans. This is how banks make money. I'm sorry if that's news to you, but this is how they make money. They're hoping that you're like most people. You misuse the cards, rack up out of credit debt, and you pay them out of interest. But you are not like most people anymore. You use opening bonuses and 0% interest cards for 12 months, 14 months, whatever, to get rich. That is what we are doing here. So then, once you understand this, use assets to make more money. I hope that you are getting this so far. This is not something that you can Google. No one is going to show you this, but I will, because I've learned this and I've earned this and I've done it for several people and for myself. This is how you earn it for yourself. This is how you go from 0 to 100 to 500K to $1 million. Easy peasy, no problem. Again, 0% interest, opening bonuses, assets. Let's move on. How do we travel and stay in hotels for free? Here's the kicker. Credit card points can be used for a variety of things. So, opening bonuses sometimes come in points, they sometimes come in cash. American Express, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they all have credit cards and they give you points, cash, Discover, Capital One, they're the same thing. So then, credit card points are best used for hotels and flights. Why? Just like we were talking about the Chase card, Chase Ultimate Rewards points are worth 25% more when you redeem them for flights through its own system. Flights, 25% more. American Express, double when they are redeemed at Hilton hotels. And this gets more complicated, we don't have enough time, but what I'm going to tell you is that points can be transferred for double or triple their value. Even if you're not spending them how they intended, you can transfer it to another organization, transfer it to another hotel. I know Alaskan Airlines, for example, Pacific Airlines, they transfer points very easily, right? JetBlue, another one, great way to transfer points. This is how you transfer and use points to their maximum effect. So you can use them for hotels, you can use them for flights. The more money you can reasonably spend on your credit cards, the more points you can earn and the more flights that you can take. I'm going to say this again. This is a reclassification of money. I want you to think about how mind-blowing this is, because this is the opposite of what you learned in school. The more money that you can spend on your credit cards, this is your goal. The more money that you can spend on your credit cards, the more points that you can earn and the more flights you can take. The more that you can spend, the better your life will be. Alright, doesn't that sound wonderful? You're spending the bank's money, not yours. You are becoming a steward of the bank's money so that you can earn yourself more points. The assets will generate income for you, and that money will be yours. The points will also be yours, but you need to mentally shift from using your own money to using your bank's money as a good steward. So here are some things that, there are 3 things that you need to mentally shift when you are thinking about the bank's money. The first is that a good steward does their research. A good steward does their research. Banks like you want to see a return on money without a lot of risk. You must also ensure that you are doing proper due diligence. Use your due diligence before you get your first credit card. Understand what the risks are. Understand the return, the potential return, the range of the return. Plan for the worst, expect the best, or plan for the best, expect the worst, have a buffer so that you can do your due diligence. Don't just go out and buy asset because someone said so. Know what you are doing. Do your due diligence. Here you have to be smart. That is always, always a caveat. You want things with a high probability of success. The things that I mentioned already have high probabilities. Laundromats, ATMs, vending machines, those have a high probability of success. Car washes, real estate, etc. Second, a good steward moves with purpose. Once you have the bank's money, you aren't allowed to sit down and do nothing. Use something, do something with the money. This is how you get the chance to earn and have access to more capital. In a capitalistic society, the person with the most money can make the most financial moves. So you have to do something with the bank's money. Third, you must use the bank's money for the right things. What does that mean? Buy assets and not liabilities. Liabilities will come, all the cars will come, all of the jackets, the fancy shoes, the Gucci belts, those things will come. But in the beginning, you need to use the bank's money to buy assets and not liabilities. Honesty is highly valued in the financial world, and there is not a lot of room to be dishonest in the world of credit. They will take money from you. But if you are good, and if you are a good steward, and if you are honest, they will give you access to more money that you can ever dream, to go out and buy more assets for the bank so that you can live the life of your dreams. This is their journey to financial freedom. I am so excited that we got to talk about this today. Now we have homework. And stay tuned because I have a gift for you at the end. Now, here's the first. The first thing, your credit scores, you need to know what your credit score is. There are apps that are absolutely free to check your credit score, like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame or Mint. Use any one of these apps to get your credit score. Now, ideally you want to aim for above 720, but if you are above 700 or if you're not there yet, no problem. There's extra help for you. Just send me an email, we can talk about it. The second step is that I want you to Google and create a step for a 4-year credit plan with 0% interest. This is just writing down a few cards that have 0% interest that last the span of at least 4 years. You maybe need 3, 4, or 5 cards to do this. It's as simple as typing into Google 0% interest intro credit cards or opening bonuses and see how many months each card will give you, and then come up with a plan for 4 years of 0% interest. Google will give you up-to-date information. Chase Bank is just one, but there are several others. We mentioned a few: Amex, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Use these banks to come up with a plan for 4 years of 0% interest. Now, there is a cheat sheet that I prepared for you. It's called a credit card cheat sheet. I will send it to you if you email me at reachme@thefullauthor.com. That has already 10 years of 0% interest credit planned out for you already. That's a cheat sheet. And I will send it to you for free because we're in this challenge. Outside people will have to pay for it. It costs $47, you are getting it for free. Again, I will see you tomorrow. I'm excited to talk about tomorrow. We're getting into real stuff today, and tomorrow we'll get into some more. Remember, freedom seekers, that you are always one decision away. Take care.